Arsenal will play Manchester United tonight at the Emirates, in which is a massive game for Arsenal's current form. Now, as Man United have a new manager as Ruben Amorim, it is good to go through exactly how Arsenal could go about beating United and what they need to be wary of. So let's get into it. Now, first of all, I do want to state that this is a massive game for Arsenal, which we all know, but it's going to be a very different game against United than it has been before. Even though Erik ten Hag isn't the worst manager ever, he was pretty bad at Manchester United, and after the first season in which he was good, people could say he lost his head in that offside against Arsenal, which is definitely offside, but I was never really worried about Arsenal playing against him because he just wasn't that high level tactically and gave too much gaps and space in the midfield. Now, Ruben Amorim is a different level. Now, he's only just joined, so he's not going to have the real experience with the players, but he's already started implementing his tactics within the squad. His obviously 3-back system, which we saw Sporting still use against us, which has obviously been devolved from his tactics that he used there. Now, I'm not going to go too in depth about United's tactics because ultimately it's not about that. This is about how Arsenal can beat them. But overall, watching their game against Everton at the weekend, it's quite clear that I think Xerxes will play in this game, someone that I've obviously done a lot of videos on, and they're going to use him to come deeper to act as that guy that can get the wingers in behind. Now, this means especially Arsenal need their fullbacks to be very on point. I'm not really too worried about Timber because he's been excellent recently, but Calafiori definitely had a bit of an off game against West Ham and needs to get that one-on-one defending down. And I agree with a lot of people that he is a good defender. I still think overall defensively he is pretty decent and improving, but sometimes his timings are a little bit off and he'll go to the ball even too late and still try and make a tackle, which leaves him out of position, or he just simply doesn't make the right decision sometimes, which can be a problem for us in this game. And Amorim likes one of his wing backs, specifically mostly the right wing back, being very attacking, so you do expect Amad Diallo to play there, so he will try and deep people in and counter later. Now, hopefully if Calafiori does make a mistake or get caught out of position, then we should have Gabriel to come over in that situation, so it might not be too bad. And that is definitely one way we're going to have to learn. And also another way that Arsenal are going to have to learn from their game against Sporting is Arsenal did play a little bit of a passive press at times in that game. This was honestly to keep Sokratis, who's obviously a massive threat in that 2v1 situation, but if Xerxes is to play in this game, we need to have a player follow him, I say consistently, even a defensive midfielder or one of the centre backs, or if it's Højlund, they might have to do this again where they both kind of change responsibility on who's actually marking him. This means players like Rashford might come deeper and Bruno Fernandes to bring the ball and do good through balls from deep, which could be a problem, but if we have our solid midfield of whoever's playing and they have enough mobility in there, we should be able to get back in time to cover that. And overall, being passive against United may not work because they have that ability to just go over the top, and it's something that they have done for very much long, but I don't know how much Manchester United are realistically going to have the ball in retained possession in defensive situations, especially at the start of the game. I expect Arsenal to probably dominate most of the ball throughout this game and to press Manchester United really well to win it back early on. And this is something Amorim has struggled with so far. United, when his team don't have the ball, they're not the best defensively. And they also do not have their strongest team out there, as we know that Luke Shaw has pulled up injured, so he won't be in their squad. It looks like Kobbie Mainoo has got a suspension for too many yellows, and obviously Licho Martinez in defence. And as while that might not look as that many players on paper, they are the main passers in that defence, especially Shaw and especially Martinez. They're the players that will get the ball up the pitch for them and are solid in a tackle to help teams stop breaking against them. Now, we saw when Arsenal pressed Sporting, Arsenal want to be very aggressive, which is something that United do not like. Against Everton, they actually benefited from Everton not being brave enough off the ball and having their midfielders too deep to actually get into that press. What Arsenal will try to do is push every single player up the pitch. They will have their midfielders on the edge of the box trying to press the deeper line and players for Manchester United, and even their centre-backs will push up towards the halfway line you expect to try and close the gap between the midfielders so they can't receive in too much space. Arsenal's off-the-ball movement is also going to be key, like it is for usual games. Now, of course, we've spoken about the off-ball movement with Saka and Odegaard, and they don't know who to go to, which is obviously going to be a big part of the attack. But against Sporting, when Arsenal played against that 5-back, it was very much with Havertz as well, trying to bait out that left centre-back. As soon as one of the defenders steps out for Manchester United, and I'm not sure who's actually going to play in this game for them there, but rumours are it's going to be be Maguire, De Ligt and Mazraoui. Now, Maguire as the left centre-back in that situation could be someone you get at and press intently. If he steps up to try and close the gaps in them half spaces so people like Odegaard can't receive with too much space around, with obviously Timber moving as well, then he's a player that can be isolated away from the play, and Arsenal can definitely take that going in behind on that right side, which is going to be key. Now, Dalot is a good defender and he probably will play left wing back, which is not necessarily his best position. He has been good against Saka in the past, I will say, but other than not in a proper back four and trying to defend in a back five, it may be hard. But you do expect sometimes Manchester United don't have the ball to actually move into a back four and push Ahmed up that right hand side. Now, another big way that Arsenal can get at them is their midfield. Kobbie Mainoo is obviously pulled up injured, and while I think Kobbie Mainoo is a good player but has clear distinguished problems because he still doesn't know what sort of player he is, he's so young and he's kind of been forced into a role there, it looks like they might play Ugarte and Casemiro as the favourites. Now, Ugarte and Casemiro are hard-hitting defenders that will put a foot in. The problem for them is when they get pressed intently and when the gaps are too big, sometimes they do struggle, and they're both not brilliant on the ball anymore. Casemiro's okay, but it's definitely dipped, and Ugarte's never really been that good on the ball, so they definitely can get pulled out of positions. They're also not the quickest players. Ugarte isn't the slowest by any means, but Casemiro at this stage of his career is definitely not fast. This is where people like Odegaard and whoever plays in midfield, I'm looking at Declan Rice as well, can push through them players. They're a lot more mobile than them two midfielders and can exploit that space, making the gaps bigger for them. And the gaps in the half spaces I do think will definitely be there, not only on the right but also on the left. And I think in this game United will definitely focus on trying to defend Arsenal's right, as it is the main output right now, and all of them are playing so well. And this could be a perfect game to see Martinelli play. Now, Martinelli's got significant rest. He didn't play in the last two Prem games at all. He obviously played against Sporting and scored, but this is exactly the game you want him in. He's the guy that can get in behind on that left hand side when Diallo gets put out of position, and maybe Mazraoui is still in that centre back role and Arsenal can break upon them if they're in their 3-2-5 setup and get that little bit of space down there. Now, I actually watched the game against Ipswich and that happened quite a lot, where the left hand side was quite open and Ahmed would get dragged out of position because he isn't a defender overall and is more like a winger anyway. Now, this is something that Martinelli needs to exploit, that space in behind, and needs to make the right decision in front of goal. We can't expect him to keep missing chances, and he does need to deserve and earn his spot in the team. Now, as for other players, I'm not sure if Mourinho is fit to start. We still don't know. Same with people like Calafiori, I guess, and even Gabriel. But Mourinho would considerably change Arsenal's dynamics in that midfield if he was to play. Now, I think Arsenal will probably still play it safe and go for a Rice Partey or a Rice Jorginho sort of system. Obviously, if Partey is not fit as well, to kind of just give a little bit stability on the ball, because I think the more Arsenal have the ball in this game, the more Manchester United might struggle, and it's definitely some way we can get at them. And it is important to say that this game is going to be a big learning curve for everyone. We haven't seen what Arsenal are like against Amorim, and I do think the sort of patterns we saw against Sporting with us dragging them out will be kind of similar to how Man United wanted to play, but maybe he would have learned from watching that game. And also the 3 games that he has managed so far for United, he's played Ipswich, Everton. Arsenal are a much bigger candidate away than any of them opponents for United, and maybe he will concede some opportunities and defend a lot more in a deep block. Now, that could be quite interesting to see how Man United do that, especially considering they don't have really many passes in their defence, and they kind of need that for order to that to get out. It'll be interesting to see what happens, but overall Arsenal need to be confident and need to just work really hard off the ball, and I think they could be okay. Let me know what you guys think in the comments, and I'll see you in the next one.